In this video, we are going to talk about the importance of changing from within, or the concept of changing or shifting your identity to suit who you are and who you want to be in future. Hopefully, for most of us listening, that we want a shift in our identity for the better and not for the worse. Nevertheless, this concept of identity change or identity shift is something that's very important for us to consider. Hi, I'm Dr. Jessica, your transformational sociologist. I help leaders craft their place in the world and I help them to enable organizations to craft places that enable people to thrive. Now, so in terms of crafting your place in the world, it is important for you to take stock of where your identity is today. Who are you? For myself, who is Dr. Jessica? Who is Jessica Sneha? I write um, academic and non-academic work. I also do public speaking. I'm a mom. I'm a community member. So we all form various identities in our lives. And we'd find that there are areas in our life that we like and we want to improve on. There are also areas that perhaps we want to change or shift. If you look at the internet, there's quite a lot of theories, I suppose, or advice on how you can change. You know, some of them being just fake it till you make it, or just try really hard and you'll make it, or things that I found on the internet in my quick Google search is just follow somebody else who you want to be like, and then you'll become them. All that's very good ideas. However, from where I'm coming from, based on my research on how places can be recrafted, this is geographical, physical places or virtual places, or how you, human beings, can recraft the identity. Um, Lasting change can only come from within. So internally, we must change. There must be a shift internally. So then that can flow on externally. If you think to yourself, oh, I'm just using this as an example, oh, I want to be just like Dr. Jessica, let me just follow whatever she does. Well, there might be some things that work, but that's not you. You're not me, and I'm not you. So you need to find that shift internally so then you have lasting change. To do that, you must first take stock of who you are currently. Now, there might be some fancy way you can do it on the computer, but this is how I encourage people to do it. When I'm advising leaders, I just get them to take a piece of paper and then I just write or get them to write, who am I? And who are you? Who am I is not necessarily your job or how much money you've got or where you live. That may all be part of who you are, but that is not who you are. You really need to, all of us, when we start out, we look at the surface level. There's a surface level identity of who we are, and then work your way down to the real you, the inner you of who you really are. And if you get all of that aligned, you will then find a sense of self. Now, I'm not just saying just the inner you is enough. Yeah, sure, you may want to portray a certain aspect of who you are. That's not being a fraud. Just, we don't all want to express all of who we are all the time. Look, I used to be like that, and then I learned, I post this in a separate video, that presenting all of who we are all the time is not it only in it's not always beneficial. So we've all formed with multiple identities. For example, for me, I'm I'm of South Asian heritage, but New Zealand is my home. So I've got two cultures almost part of who I am. My husband comes from brings with him different cultures as well. So as a family, we call ourselves the United Nations family because we are part of a bigger family from around the world. So that's part of who I am. And then another part of who I am might be that I'm a transformational sociologist. My passion is to craft places. Look, I'm not an engineer, so I can't build buildings, but I can appreciate holistically a geographical place, a spatial planning, how that could look like, not just today, but into the future, with my core objective, how can that help people thrive? That's part of who I am. And another part of who I am is I'm a mom of two beautiful children. I'm married. I'm a homeowner. I'm a contributing member of my community. Those are all parts of who I am. And there are other parts of who I am that I might be working on, you know. I might I don't often have as much time to be physically fit as I used to. So I figure out how can I work that into my schedule because that's important for me, not just cosmetically, but because that makes me feel better. My mind is also a part of who I am. Oftentimes we focus on just our physical selves. We forget our mindset. A lot of my coaching is on mindset. How can you change your mind to then change yourself holistically? Or I would look at places. So there's two aspects of my work is to enabling people, mostly leaders who then go and enable other people, or places. So people would come to me and say, look, our place, it could be say, let's use an example of places that I worked with. You know, this town has got a bad reputation. How do we change it? Let's just do some marketing, create some free posters. You see how that's just surface level? You know, to the detriment of many marketers that I worked with, you know, there's marketers have told me, oh well, you know, we don't do organizational or operations or planning. We just do marketing. We just do pretty pictures. And I often told them, well, you've come to the wrong place then. Like just doing pretty pictures of your town, of what your town could look like, is not going to change what the town actually is, i.e., the identity of the town. You need to delve into the identity of the town, deep core. Think of it as an iceberg. The identity of a place, what you see is just the surface level, but the core foundations of the iceberg of what makes or breaks things is underneath. Likewise, a tree, if you take a giant tree, the roots are deep down. So you need to understand where the roots are going to, you know, the connections it makes underneath to strengthen its foundation so then it can shoot up high. And places are like that too. So oftentimes lots of marketers and PR people don't necessarily like my advice because you know they just want to do their job, which is fair enough, to do media releases or do marketing themes. But that's good, but that's just one level, that's just the top level. You need to be, for sustained growth of a place, you need to change or shift or adapt your marketing to evolve with the changing faces of the town, so the town or the country can be consistent. The image of the country should be consistent with what it actually is. Only then will it be consistent. Likewise, same the same principle applies to our identity. Now, write down who I don't know which how many of you are listening. I know some of my clients who are listening, but I don't know all of you who are listening to this. So that's why I'd like you to post on comments. Who are you? Where are you from? Who are you as a person? And how are you seeking to change or shift? And write all that down. And then there might, for most of us, even for me, there's a gap of where I am and where I want to be. But then I've learned to consciously articulate how I can achieve the gap, shift from where I am to where I want to be in areas where I want a shift in my identity. Write that down and then figure out what are the things that are practical. So then with everything, there's internal and then there's external. Internally, the things that you can change to change your identity. And then how are you going to deal with it externally? I was talking to a lady who felt that the perception of who she was not really what she was internally. She wanted a change. And when she changed and then put that new shifting identity forward externally, people in, especially in her closer circles, were not accepting of her because that was not the identity that they were used to. So they were used to expecting certain things from her, which they were not getting in her new identity. So we were looking at ways that, you know, that this person's identity has changed for the better, because it gave them peace of mind, and it was also made them more productive, more fuller, happy, fulfilled. And by fulfillment, I don't just mean money, I mean in every way of of her life, she was getting better. So but the challenge was that there was resistance because people were used to a certain way identity of this human being. So we worked around how she could then slowly ensure that people were accepting of her identity, or that she set boundaries on who she was, to give people time to figure out who she was and learn to accept that this is who she was, and learn that there will always be people that are not acceptant of it, and how she could deal with that. Um, so as you navigate through changes in your life, the reason I'm doing this video is time and time again, there's so many people that, they sound much better than me or another applied philosopher or academic, that, just be fake it till you make it. There's very fancy words to do things, but I really think sustained change comes from within. And from my point of view, I look at how we can craft places that enable people to thrive, because we all live in a physical place, and we all live in a mental space. We all live in a virtual space, and in all these spaces, we've got different identities. And I think I don't think, I know it's very important for us to be intentional about how each of these identities can influence who we are as individuals, in the workplace, in the marketplace, and in our private spaces. And for me, the more important thing is, how is it for me internally? If people look at me and they assume a certain thing because of how I look, the color of my skin, the tone in which I speak, my academic qualifications, whatever. And you know what? They are entitled to their perspectives. But if I know who I am on the inside, I will be able to tackle that. Like a lot of my life, I being brought up in a South Asian context, and in a world that, in New Zealand, which is not predominantly South Asian, there's all these different players, trying to influence my identity. When I was younger, um, there was lots of conflicts, well, am I this, am I that, am I a mixture of everything? And I, uh, being someone that if somebody told me this is who I am, I would actually consider it. Even sometimes when I feel it's not true, I think, oh, maybe is that true? Should I visit it? And that's actually a good thing. But you need to really be intentional on who you are, so you don't have the wrong parties coming and putting things in your head and making you believe something that you are not, which I did in my early years. And I feel like, in my 40s, mid to late 40s, I'm thinking, wow, why did I even believe all these people? I'm not going to blame them. I guess they're entitled to their views. If you read my book, I'll give you some examples of how I, believed in certain things that made me lose my self-esteem. But I feel like if I had known to do this exercise, this identity, my identity, who I am, then I would have had that solid foundation, that iceberg that's underneath the water, or the roots that's underneath the ground that you don't really see. So then when things came my way, if it were coming, hitting me to improve myself, then that's great. I would be able to, because I'm aware of my strengths, my weaknesses, and I use it as an opportunity to change for the better. If someone comes and says something about me which is not necessarily true, then I'm able to defend myself against the things that are not true. So the basic essence of who you are needs to be something that you invest time in. Imagine the time we spend like checking our phones, reading I don't know what on the internet, listening to gossip, but we don't invest time on figuring out who we are. And that is a shame, I think. That's an extreme shame. Someone said to me the other day, look, why are you doing what you're doing? It's great that, you're crafting the place in the world, but your father was a banker, you're reasonably good with numbers. Maybe you should do something with numbers, and that will have more followers on YouTube. Firstly, I'm not doing this just for followers on YouTube. I'd love for you guys to follow me on YouTube, not for me, but so we can craft so many people's lives. I really, I just feel we're all born for a reason to bring out the best versions of who I can, who I am, and the best version of who you are. So if I can help you bring out the best in yourself, that's win. And so that is where I want people to follow me and share it, but not so I can just get more followers. What's the point? Actually, since this person told me that I've YouTubed some videos, that has fantastic feedback on from great YouTubers that talk about money, and we all don't have to do the same things. And this is again coming back to, because I knew who I was and who I am now, I'm developing it, but I've got kind of that sense now. I don't need to go here and go there and do this and do that every time somebody just moving with the wind, every time somebody says something about what I ought to do. And that's what I mean. And also, money is good, but most of the people, I've read quite a lot of books about money, and people like people like Warren Buffett and Mother Teresa, from like diverse people. The people that are really, really, really fulfilled in who they are, it's not just about money, it's about having that sense of who they are on the inside, makes them who they are on the outside. But then there are also amazing people that breaks my heart. Like they were very good at what they did. Anthony Bourdain, a chef, beautiful person. I've watched some of his shows, and suicide. Or Michael Jackson was great at what he did. He didn't really find out who he really was, and then he died of an overdose. I mean, the examples are tremendous. Like, so whoever you are, wherever you are starting from, remember you need to find out who you are, do the identity test, and then do the identity shift test. So this is my identity. This is how I want to change, or I want to shift. I want to shift my identity from here to here. Now, you may not want to shift all of your identity, because there are parts of yourself. We all like parts of ourselves, so we don't really need to totally shift everything. We shift, we move, we change, we adapt to become the fullness of who we can be. And when we do that, we then benefit not just ourselves, we benefit our family, our community, and the world. Can I encourage you this week to take stock of who you are and what shifts you need to make in your lives so you can become the full version of who you can be? We all live finite lives. I am going to die. You are going to die. What we do in between when we are alive is what matters. This is what we leave behind as memories, so other people can bring out the fullness, the best of who they can be. That is the essence of life. We all have multiple identities that we can showcase in multiple ways. And we also need to be wise in guarding our identity. I was an open book. I was the fullness of who I can be all the time. Like I said before, I would post that in a separate video, and that's not always healthy either. As I go through my diploma in psychology and counseling, I am understanding that more, reading psychological books. We don't always have to be Being honest does not mean you need to be the fullness of who you are with everybody. You need to be wise, guard your soul, guard your spirit, guard your identity. So you can then be released from the limitations and be the true essence of who you can be. I'd like you to send me an email or post in comments what one lesson that you got from this video, one identity about yourself. You don't have to reveal everything about yourself. What did you like about yourself? What do you like about yourself? Where would you like to shift? If we are moving house, or we're moving towns, we don't just do it on the spur of the moment. We might when we're in our early 20s, or sometimes we might be forced to. But primarily when we do this, we research, where do I want to move to? Would I like this? Would I not like it? How would I like to approach it? We are very intentional in our movements of our geographical locations. How much more? Oh, money. If you've got money, extra money somewhere, don't you take a lot of time and effort to figure out what you want to do with that money? Do I put it in real estate? I used to in a previous life be a real estate agent, and people still stop me. And I was a reasonably good one, an award-winning one. So people would still stop me years later on the street, asking me for real estate advice, especially because now I do quite a lot of work with property researchers and do work around property, but I'm not in real estate agency myself. People say, look, you're an independent voice. Oh, tell us what we can do. The amount of energy people put in understanding real estate is immense. Oh, the amount of effort people put in the finances is immense, and so it should be. But your identity is the essence of who you are. Shouldn't you put at least that effort you give in your real estate, your finance, um, your where you move to, the school your children go to, at least, if not more, on who you are and who you can be? Look, if you want to talk to me further, just please flip me an email or just post in comments. Or if you just want me to come and give a talk, I'm very happy to, because time is important. Your identity is important. Together, let's learn to be the best versions of who we are, to showcase the best identities, to grow our best identities, and to shift our identities to one that we are proud of, to one that will bring out the best in ourselves. Until next time, keep sparkling wherever you are. I'm Dr. Jessica, signing off from the furthest corners of the world, wishing you good luck from New Zealand.